Welcome back, and in this segment of How to Do It, we're going to teach you how to make an on-farm protozoa tea. And I guess the first question is, why? Why would we bother with making a protozoa tea? Why is this particular group of organisms so important, or really important in the whole equation? What can they offer us? Well, let's talk about their roles and their principal, their biggest role. They've got many roles, but one of their biggest roles in the soil is the recycling of nitrogen. So basically the scenario is that bacteria are packed with nitrogen. 17% of that tiny body is actually nitrogen, and protozoa gobble bacteria. One watermelon-sized protozoa consumes 10,000 pea-sized, if you look at the difference in size, it's about a watermelon to a pea. Pea-sized bacteria a day, and you've got, basically it comes down to this thing called the carbon to nitrogen ratio. Now protozoa have a 30-to-1 carbon to nitrogen ratio, which means they're genetically keyed to maintain their 30 units of carbon to 1 unit of nitrogen, whereas bacteria are packed with nitrogen. That's why they love nitrogen. They've got 5-to-1, 17% of their body is nitrogen, and so protozoa are gobbling them constantly, and they've got to eat 6 bacteria at 5-to-1. 6 5s makes 30 to get their sufficient carbon, but there's extra nitrogen there, so they spit the 5 extra units of nitrogen. They ate 6, so they only want 1 unit of nitrogen. They've got 5 spare. 5 spits into soil solution, and there's ammonium, nitrogen, sometimes even amino acids that they've exuded that they didn't require from that cannibalization of bacteria. And that's, the plant says, you beauty, and sucks up that nitrogen. And that's called nitrogen cycling, and it's a big part of nitrogen cycling. And if you've knocked out your protozoa, and many people have, when you check with the soil food web test, many people have really, really compromised numbers of protozoa, and there are various things contributing to that, not the least of which in intensive horticulture is nematicides. They are very, very harsh on protozoa particularly. So that's huge. We're basically cycling nitrogen constantly, and if you don't have protozoa, then you have insanely high numbers of bacteria in the soil that eat at the table first, and they will be consumed. You'll be using much more nitrogen than what you'd want to be using from a cost-effective perspective, because the bacteria are gobbling it up, and there's nothing you don't get it back till they die, and there's no cycling system happening in that model. So really, really important. That's the big thing, nitrogen cycling. And there's also other minerals in the bacteria, some of which the protozoa wants, some it doesn't, and so it spits out. So it cycles other minerals other than nitrogen, but nitrogen's the big one, of course. The most abundant mineral in the plant is nitrogen, hugely important from that perspective. The second benefit of protozoa is, as important, because if we talk about the importance of earthworms in our soil, it's massive. There's this fertilizer factory, this little lime works that is delivering calcium and NPK and other minerals constantly. Hugely important, aerating the soil and all the things, and incubating their own organisms in their guts. Many people have lost their earthworm. You ask the question at seminars, how many people have got good numbers of earthworms, and 1 hand in 50 goes up. That's where we're at. So how do you bring them back? Well, their favourite food. Their favourite food is protozoa, and really it can be as simple as introducing a big swag of protozoa with a protozoa tea that I'm about to teach you about, and then watch your earthworm counts increase. Now, I often cite a viticulture guy who was at one of the courses, and he said, I can do that. And he checked first to see what his earthworm counts were in his 40 acres of vineyards. And what he discovered was that he had 1 earthworm per 11 shovelfuls, so really low numbers. Every shovelful, 1 earthworm per 11 shovelfuls. He made a protozoa tea, he put it out at quite high rates, fertigated it, and then came back 6 weeks later, not long, and he had 11 earthworms per shovelful. That's a 10,000-fold. 1 per 11, 11 per 1 is a 10,000-fold increase in earthworm counts, and that's hugely valuable. He could see the earthworm castings on the top under the vines. He could see the pathways, the oxygen in, the CO2 out, the gas exchange improved by those wonderful creatures called earthworms. That's a huge role of protozoa. Put them there and they will come. Earthworms will come. They'll arrive from wherever because that's their favourite food. So that's a huge thing. Then we look at other benefits of protozoa and why we might make a protozoa tea and benefit from it. And one of them, quite importantly, is called root zone architecture. Now, when we talk about how we can expand our roots, the first thing that comes to mind is mycorrhizal fungi, because they burrow in and they expand out and give us a 10-fold increase in root surface area. So all the things that roots can do, accessing moisture, accessing nutrients and so forth, are theoretically as much as 10 times increased. But protozoa are second only to mycorrhizal fungi because one of the creatures, and there are 3 types of protozoa, one of them, the largest, called amoeba, produces really high levels of an auxin hormone, and that stimulates root branching. And you see it particularly on cereal crops and grasses, where you'll see all of these branches coming off the main root, and you've really dramatically changed that root zone architecture to your benefit, because you've got much more access of moisture and nutrients, and that comes from protozoa. So a lot of reasons to consider brewing up your protozoa. Now, you can do it just with what's been found is that all 3 forms of protozoa absolutely love, thrive and multiply in lucerne hay, but there's a rub here. The lucerne hay has to be organic. We find many, many people have tried it and tested and tried this making of a tea and found nothing in the tea, because particularly if you've been spraying for lucerne flea, that particular insecticide is toxic to protozoa. So you really have to, beg, borrow, steal, or know the history of the lucerne that you're sourcing, that it didn't have an insecticide on it, so that you can successfully multiply the protozoa within that lucerne hay, or alfalfa if you're in the US. And what we're going to do is extract that. And how we do that typically is they love molasses and they love liquid fish. So we're going to use our liquid fish product called utilise liquid fish. It's a very, very dense liquid fish. It's probably the best on the market. It's got 5.9% nitrogen. Comes from fish in the southern oceans at great depth, so they have higher protein levels. They have higher omega-3 fats, which have got their own value, including significant amounts of iodine found in that omega-3. Really, really nice liquid fish. It's one of our better products that a lot of people have underestimated. But protozoa love fish. It's got everything. It's got the carbohydrates, the proteins, the fats, everything that they want. And so we're going to use, in a 200-litre drum, we're going to use 5 litres of liquid fish. And the other thing they like is molasses. So we're going to use 5 litres of liquid fish and 5 litres of molasses. Now, you can just do that. You put the 10% roughly of the lucerne into a tank. It needs to be aerated. And it needs to be aerated well. So we're using the Brewstar 200, and we've got that. It's the same thing we used in previous demonstrations for other purposes, including the compost extract. But now we've rewired it so that the bubble is working beneath. And normally with an aerobic tea, it's a 24-hour process. With protozoa, it's longer. We're trying to attract them off the lucerne and multiply them up. They take longer than bacteria to multiply, and it takes 2 days to finish this brew. But there's a trick where you can really, really have like sardines in there when you look under a microscope, and that involves a bacterial brew that you've created beforehand. So in an earlier presentation, we showed you how to make a worm extract. Well, we're going to use this worm extract as the food for the protozoa, and that's something anyone can do. You don't have to, but that just gives you big accounts of protozoa. So we've got the worm extract in here. We've got our pump ready to turn on in a moment. And we're going to add the lucerne for a start. Or we'll add the food source first. So we'll add our liquid fish, our utilise liquid fish at 5 litres. Karl will give me a hand here. I'll just stand back in case you splatter fish all over me. So we're putting our 5 litres of liquid fish. It's a great fertiliser for everything, basically, and a very good nitrogen source at almost 6% nitrogen, one of the highest organic sources of nitrogen. Of course, it is organically certified, and we use liquid fish in many of our formulations, but as a standalone, it's a really cool, cool organic fertiliser. So we'll put our 5 litres into the drum. It's got a lot of food for the protozoa to attract them off the lucerne. We've got plenty of little bubbles to oxygenate them, and we want them to multiply in this soup. So we've got the vermicast, the liquid vermicast extract in here. We've now added the liquid fish, and now we're adding 5 litres. So 5 litres of liquid fish and 5 litres of molasses. And we're just adding that in there. Beautiful, thick, syrupy molasses. And finally, we will start adding, and we'll turn on the bubbler at this point. And we'll start adding in, and you'll see just how this bubbles. We'll have a photo of this, an image of this for you shortly. Lots of bubbles, lots and lots of bubbles. And then we're going to start adding the lucerne into this. Usually it's roughly 10%, and we're going to feed this in, and we might even use our cricket bat to push it down. But we're going to feed all the lucerne in there. We can probably put it in big amounts than that if you like. You can put a whole wad in there, that's the way. And we're going to make it, quite a reasonable amount in there. And as I mentioned, it does need to be organic lucerne, because we just find, Karl was just sharing a story of his uncle who's been very keen on making some of these do-it-yourself living fertilizers. He's made 3 brews of protozoa tea using conventional lucerne and no protozoa at all. And we've had the same experience. So you do have to find a clean source of lucerne for this purpose. So we're just going to use the cricket bat, the famous Australian cricket bat, to push the lucerne down into the soup. And now it's going to be a 24-hour process to bubble and extract the protozoa from that lucerne. And at the end of that period, then of course we've got to screen off the lucerne, so we're going to have to run it through our compost tea bag or a sieve or whatever, and we've created, at the end of 48 hours, we would have created a soup of protozoa. Under a microscope, it's like sardines. And you put that protozoa out, you can fertigate it or burn spray it or liquid inject it in broadacre, and watch the benefits, watch that change in root structure, watch the arrival of earthworms, watch the much more efficient use of nitrogen when you're recycling the nitrogen from the bacteria constantly, gobbling up those bacteria and spitting out the 5 units of nitrogen you don't need that your plant, your crop sucks up. So really cool thing to do. Make your own protozoa tea, and now you know how to do it. Thanks for listening.